Well,
Yep.
since we jumped head first into it, I think it's time for our new segment, Cop Watch. Yes.
Bad cops, bad cops. Bad cops, bad cops. Greenfield cops are on the take. But what do you expect for the money we make? Whether in a car or on a horse, we don't mind using excessive force. Bad cops, bad cops.
Yes. Time for a Cop Watch, because this whole week has been about controversy about policing, really, above all else. We just touched on it earlier. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot is calling for peace as officials released the footage of the police shooting of 13-year-old Adam Toledo. Now, she said that she saw no evidence whatsoever that the 13-year-old Adam Toledo fired a gun at the police before an officer fatally shot him. But she declined to say if the teen was holding a weapon at the time of the shooting, instead referring to body camera video footage. Now, this is important because during a bond hearing for the 21-year-old that Adam Toledo was with, Ruben Roman, who was with Adam the night of the shooting, Cook County State Attorney James Murphy described the altercation in a proffer. He said the officer told Adam to drop it as Toledo turned towards the officer, and he had a gun in his right hand. But now, in response to the WGN, this is Who Broke It investigates inquiry, the state's attorney official said the detail about Adam having a gun in his hand at the moment he was shot was inaccurate. The attorney who worked in this office failed to fully inform himself before speaking in court. He blatantly lied, Rev. He just blatantly lied.
Well, you know, they wished that there was a gun in his hand.
Right.
They so desperately wanted there to be a gun in his hand. That police officer, in his mind, there had to be a gun in his hand.
Right.
Because he was too busy running on scared.
Right. I mean, I've seen the video.
And I like to. Why are they so scared that in almost every video you see person does something or maybe does nothing, and all of a sudden guys are triggering like they're having a seizure.
Right.
And 8 or 9 bullets later, the smoke clears, and turns out there would have been nothing to see here.
Right.
There weren't twitchy fingers.
A lot of it is training, but the really unfortunate thing I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of people, unfortunately, on the left, and I am, like I said, I consider myself a part of the left, and this ain't even liberals. I can't even blame the liberals this time. This is genuine left. This is talking about the abolition of the police. Abolish the police is what Rashida Tlaib, who is the representative from Detroit, from Michigan, recently tweeted out after watching, I think, the Dante Wright shooting that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And unfortunately, I think that is a horrific overreaction that will ultimately backfire, I think, in the minds of the American public. What say you, Rev?
Well, right now we've had the public cultivated to the point where my children, my 8 and my 5-year-old children, yes, don't like it.
Right.
I had a situation last week where someone tried to defraud my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I called the police to file a report. They said, well, you can come down and we can send a couple off. I said, please have them come to my house.
Mm-hmm.
My mother is here. I'd like them to come, but I'd not only like them to come in order to take down a report, I'd like them to come to introduce themselves to my daughters.
Right.
So that my daughters can get at least a balanced perspective on what police officers are like. Because up to that moment, up to that day, the only thing they knew about cops is what they saw on TV. And what they saw on TV is that cops are killers.
Right.
That they are monsters who are walking around like the walkers on The Walking Dead, looking for someone to devour. Now, I always say that Gary may be like a bubble. Maybe it is so unique, so unusual a city, because we are a city that not only has black leadership, we have a black majority population, and not just by a little, by a whole lot. I'm gonna tell you something. Even Atlanta, Georgia, which supposedly is Black Mecca, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go to Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't look like Black Mecca.
Right.
It looks like a college town.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
See a whole bunch of white folks in Atlanta. Same thing with Washington, D.C. Matter of fact, other than the hood, Washington, D.C. don't look nothing like Chocolate City.
Mm.
But Gary, it's known for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you look around, that's what you see. You look around at the politics, it's black. You look around at the economics, all right, it may not be great, but most of the businesses in this town are owned by who?
There's some
either us or Arab. We don't have a whole bunch of white folks that have got their foot on us.
Right.
We are, if it's possible to create a laboratory condition where you can say, all right, let's see if given the opportunity and the resources, whether or not blacks actually could do anything that anybody else could do in America.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, Indiana would be your perfect laboratory. And I would actually stipulate that other than some of the things that happened with the politics over the past 50 years, I would say that by and large, we had shown that, yep, let our businesses operate, properly, have a proper government structure and social structure, that there's nothing that you can't do in Gary, Indiana. Then, of course, we had to have the drug epidemic, and again, that was artificially induced, but that did a number on us. It did a big number on us.
Right. And and that's same for a lot of cities and black neighborhoods in this country. But to move along, because like I said, this whole week has been very much about the police.
Yep.
The Brooklyn Center police chief and officer Dante Wright that we just alluded to, they both have resigned. Yep. The police officer named Kimberly Potter, who shot and killed Dwayne Wright, announced that on Tuesday that she had resigned from the force. Yep. Officials said that he was pulled over on a Sunday for an expired registration when officers noted he had an object hanging from his rearview mirror. When police ran his name, they noted that he had an outstanding warrant and started to take him into custody. When he attempted to get back in the vehicle, this woman, Kimberly Potter, shot him, unfortunately. She said that she thought that she had fired her taser at Mr. Wright, but accidentally grabbed her revolver instead. The mayor called for her to lose her job on Monday. So like basically it was curtain for this woman, because and I actually agree with you. I actually do think it was a mistake. I don't have any proof that it was not. Watching the video and her reaction, I hear panic. I hear and see panic, and I see her screaming, "Taser, taser, taser." And then she pulls her gun, shoots one time, and then says, "Oh bleep." Oh bleep, a word I can't say here on the radio. Oh bleep, oh bleep, oh bleep. She's instantly freaking out once she shoots this young man. Yep. And I definitely think that there it may have been manslaughter, but it does need to be manslaughter. I mean, she does need to be charged, because it is up to her to basically have a grasp on whether she has a taser or a gun at her disposal. That's her job to know that.
Right.
And to whom much power is given, much is expected.
That's right.
And so definitely, I'm glad she doesn't have a job anymore. I'm glad she's not going back to her job like the guy who shot Jacob Blake 7 times in the back, who went back to work this week. But she definitely needed to lose her job and be charged because that is pure recklessness on her part. What say you, Rev?
I think that yeah, you're right. From her reaction just in that video, it would have been best for her not to have gone back to work. I also did some studying just in general because a friend of mine asked the question: is it possible that women deal with this issue differently? Women police officers deal with the issue of use of force differently than male police officers.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I was inclined to not agree with him, but then I did the research, and well, let's be honest, we don't have that many data points of female police officers using deadly force.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much all of them, with one or two exceptions, were guys.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I did further research, I found out other things. For example, you know, of course, that the average woman is smaller than the average man, right?
Right.
But guns are designed for male hands.
Really?
Yeah. Which means women have to make adjustments to fire a handgun or get a stock that's sized for them, a pistol grip that's sized for them. And I wonder, your typical police service weapon, do they have different size handles for women and men? Because if not, the women have to just take what's issued and have to adjust to it. Now, one of the ways that affects shooting is that if you can't really get your hand around it good to get a good solid grip, when that gun recoils, it's going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was in the military, I was a security policeman, and there was one weapon that I hated shooting. I couldn't stand to shoot it. Well, there was actually two. One of them, a shotgun, because I could not get that thing to sit properly, so it did not hurt. So you can imagine if I would have had to use that shotgun in any real situation, I would have been really not wanting to use it.
Right.
I would have been hoping I could get away with only shooting one time
because
it was going to hurt. So if this is the case, because when me and my friends were first talking about that shooting, I mentioned the fact, well, she only shot one time.
Mm-hmm.
And normally when these cops shoot, they shoot, 7 or 8 times.
Right.
They shoot like their finger gets stuck or something. They keep blasting away.
Right.
But she only shot one time.
Right.
Of course, if you're shooting a taser, that's what you do.
Right. We got another caller, Rev. Let me get this caller. Hello, caller.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
What's up? What's on your mind?
I got a question. It's something I'm a little bit mixed up on.
Yeah.
The guy that went back to his car after the lady that shot him and thought she thought she was pulling her taser. Did she order this guy to stay there and not go to his car?
Well, she told him, like, if you watch the video, okay, yeah, the video is she's trying to pull him out of the car, and he jumps back into the car, and then she says, taser, 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 while he's trying to drive away, and she shoots him instead of tasing him, and then she says, oh, bleep, oh, bleep, oh, bleep.
Oh, okay, so he tried to drive away.
Yeah, he tried to drive away.
But I don't know about that, but I'm gonna tell you what. I think she got so nervous when he got. But no, they can't happen because if he got back in his car and just got in his car to get something down off the rearview mirror, like somebody said, I could see that. But by him getting his car and driving away, still there's no way even to shoot. But the taser, unless that taser go, I don't know, the guy hit the accelerator on that car, like, to me, it should be going further enough that he wouldn't have got tased too much. I don't know. But I just wondered about it. I got it all wrong. I thought what happened was that he went to her car on his own, and I said, if I was a cop, and I told somebody to stand there and they go to their car.
Right.
I don't know. I might bang bang. I don't know. All right, my man.
All right,
Y'all
thank
take
you
care.
for your call. Thank you for your call. But Rev, that's not all. That's like I said, this week was full of cop stories, about stories about police misconduct. The state of Virginia, their attorney general has directed his civil rights office to investigate a possible pattern of misconduct by police in the town of Windsor after officers drew their guns and used pepper spray on a black uniformed U.S. Army officer. Karen should I say Nazario, a second lieutenant in the Army Medical Corps, filed a lawsuit this month against the two cops, Joe Gutierrez and Daniel Crocker, officers in the police department, over the incident that happened in December. The lawsuit said that the traffic stop was ostensibly for the lack of a rear license plate, though the temporary tags were affixed to the back of the vehicle and visible. Body camera footage showed the officers pointing their guns at Nazario, using pepper spray and knocking him to the ground. I've seen this footage, and I will say this. This guy did something very smart, and this may be why he's alive today and not either dead or in a hospital somewhere like Jacob Blake. He purposely drove to the gas station. He drove to a well-lit area where there were going to be lots of people, and then he got out of the car. But unfortunately, they were really mad by the time they got to him, but not mad enough to unjustly shoot him in front of all those people.
Either that, or maybe, just maybe, all the stuff that's been going on in the media, maybe that, because see, I look at it like this too. I don't care what else is going on. By this point, if you're a police officer, one thing ought to be crystal clear to you. If you pull out your service revolver and shoot somebody, you better have all your ducks lined up.
Oh, yeah.
You do not want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy that ends up on 6 o'clock news.
You do not.
As the use of force abuser of the week.
Nope.
And so, police department, I don't care what else is going on. This week and going forward, when you have your morning brief or your afternoon brief and you're passing out information to the troops, and remember, folks, use of force is not something to be done casually.
Nope.
You better have it. You better know in your mind before you pull out your service pistol what you're going to do. Don't be pulling it out to threaten anybody. Don't be pulling it out to make yourself appear more intimidating. Pull it out if you have every intention of pulling that trigger. Not might pull it, not if the situation deteriorates, pull it, not if you find out he's got a gun, pull it. No, when you pull it, you better already have it thought through from the moment of grabbing it to the moment you put it back in your holster. If that includes pulling the trigger, you better have that fully played out before you before you get out of your vehicle. You better have that played out, because if you're wrong, it's gonna go bad for you.
Absolutely, I agree. But let me just say this to show you how at least on some level, the legal system is somewhat consistent. The officer who shot and killed one of the January 6th Capitol rioters, Ashley Babbitt, will not be charged either. So you saw the right-wing people like, oh, well, didn't Ashley Babbitt's life matter? You know, and very angry that the black police officer who ended up shooting her, who went there to try to overthrow the government and lynch all of our politicians, that he won't be charged either. So on some level, like I would have been really mad if all these other cops, people, got off, and then this woman tried to overthrow the government and tried to. And nothing happened, and this cop is the one who ends up being prosecuted. So I would have definitely been a little bit heated if that was the case. So that I believe personally, I believe that is good news. But
besides, they made such an effort of presenting the Capitol Police as outright heroes.
right.
So
That's
you're gonna
good
take
too.
one of those heroes and put him on trial now?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
Right.
How did the optics of that play out?
Right. And speaking of hero cops, I want everybody to know this story. Whenever they say it's not all cops and that, there are good cops and, there's a few bad apples, but most cops are good cops. I believe generally that's true. But here's the reason that a lot of good cops don't come forward when they're supposed to come forward. The story that came out this week was very positive. This woman, the sister of Carrie Horn, she was vindicated. She was vindicated by the New York Supreme Court after she was fired and faced departmental charges and left without a pension after a 2006 incident in Buffalo, New York. In 2006, she responded to a call of a colleague in need of help. Now, this woman, not Officer Horn, another woman, accused her ex-boyfriend, David Mack, of stealing her Social Security check. And while attempting to get this man, David Mack, into custody, a struggle ensued between Mack and this white police officer, who was her I guess, one of her fellow officers. Now, Miss Carrie Horn, a black woman, saw this white officer put David Mack, the boyfriend, into a chokehold. When Horn heard the handcuffed Mr. Mack say that he could not breathe, she then forcibly removed her fellow officer. This officer and Horn, Miss Carrie Horn, were then seen throwing punches at each other in the driveway of Mr. Mack's home, according to witnesses and police that were interviewed at the time. The white officer, Gregory Kwiatkowski, was cleared of any wrongdoing in the incident and would later go on to successfully sue this woman. He sued the woman who prevented him from from choking this guy, I guess, turning him into a proto version of George Floyd. He sued her successfully for defamation, winning a $65,000 judgment. He would later, but here's the catch. He would later go on to be sentenced to 4 months in prison in an unrelated case involving 4 black teenagers. He was convicted of deprivation of rights under the color of law. This woman, Miss Carrie Horn, was reassigned after the altercation and later fired in 2008, 1 year before the 20-year mark that she needed to receive a full pension. And she tried to get her pension for many years. She tried to have the decision reversed to no avail. But now she has been vindicated, and she is now entitled to back wages, benefits, and enough credit to receive her pension. We need more officers like Miss Carrie Horn, Rev.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, we do.
I'm not going to say that I think most cops are good, because me and Bill Kay have had that conversation before. I am of the mind that most cops, in fact, all cops, are people.
Yep.
And people at their core are inclined towards doing evil. Now, we resist that inclination. But left to our own devices, if we thought we could get away with it without repercussions, most of us by nature would choose to sin rather than not sin. If we didn't have good home training, for example, how many times have you talked about kids who had no good home training?
Right.
And you can tell they have no good home training. Why? Not because they're the most polite kid in the room, but because they lack respect for others.
Right.
All these things have to be taught to people. And so police officers are no different. They have to be taught to not abuse their authority. They have to be taught to not operate in fear, and then therefore shoot first and ask questions later. These things have to be taught and retaught and rehearsed and practiced until it becomes second nature, because it is not first nature.
Man.